Welcome everyone to our Securing Your World web series. I am Latia, the Brand Strategy Director here at Heritage Digital. I want to thank you for joining us for part 3 of our Securing Your World web series. This is going to be focused on securing your digital footprint. Today joining me, I have our CEO, Marty Parker, our IT Director, Luke, and our cybersecurity expert, Natalie Suarez from ConnectWise. You came in with so many great questions. Without further ado, I'm going to kick off with our first question from the audience. Natalie, everyone wanted to know, how can small businesses ensure their digital footprint aligns with their brand identity?
Wow, that's a great question. So I just want to remind them what their digital footprint is first so they know what we're talking about. So your digital footprint is going to include anything like your social media presence, your search engine rankings, your online reviews, your backlink profiles, and your overall brand visibility. So in order to make sure that you are paying attention and securing your digital footprint and it aligns with your brand identity, you want to make sure the first thing is you want to train your staff and colleagues to make sure that whatever they're posting to social media or sharing online with your partners or your customers aligns with what your digital footprint is. You also really want to pay attention to those online reviews because those can change your search engine rankings. We have seen some nefarious activity where bad guys are trying to extort people to either remove a whole bunch of bad reviews or to not do it in the first place. And if you have a whole bunch of bad reviews online, even if they're unwarranted, that could hurt your search rankings through Google or whatever search engine, right? Bing, whatever. You want to really make sure you pay attention to the kind of stuff and be consistent.
Right. Great. Thank you so much for sharing that. For those of you who may have missed part 1 and 2, Natalie delved into those online reviews and how you can really help that situation. Before you actually hire one of those people, check out section 1 and 2. Then Marty, we want to turn over to you. We know you are boots on the ground, connected with the captains of industry here in South Carolina. So let us know some of the questions you've heard from them.
Yeah, one of them that I hear, especially since we started the series, is what's the starting point? Where do I start managing my digital footprint? What's the first steps?
I think really the first step is before you allow your staff to make posts online, you really want to make sure everyone's educated. Like, what's your mission statement? What's your vision? What types of things should they be posting? I know, for instance, where I work, part of what they do is our marketing teams will help us and, not write posts for us, but give us an idea. Like if we have a big event coming up, kind of how we should be positioning that with our partners and clients. I think that's really important. And it's really important to pay attention to those reviews because unfortunately we may get to this later, but unfortunately with the advent of AI and things like ChatGPT, it's even easier for bad guys to generate a lot of, almost real looking bad reviews just to try to extort some additional money out of small businesses.
Thank you so much for that, Natalie. Luke, I know you've been talking to some other IT directors, data scientists also in your sphere. Let us know some of the things you've heard from them.
Yeah.
Well,
What role will artificial intelligence play in the future of cybersecurity defense?
Well, you know what? Because it's a predictive analysis engine and it's really good at predicting, because you could think of it as an automated data scientist, is the way I like to think of it. it's really good at predicting what's going to happen next. Now, is it always right? No. But if you have a lot of data analytics, you can do some really cool things. Like you could take all of the information that you collect from your partners and customers via cookies when they are visiting your websites and see, what are they purchasing? What are they clicking on? What are they doing? And it can really help you craft your brand and see where you have it right and where you don't have it right. Also, for actually protecting, if you just look at the number of events, and events are really just the bad guy knocking at the door, it's not really getting in. If you look at the number of events where they're doing port scanning or they're looking for vulnerabilities or whatever, just think about the power of an AI to analyze all of that and figure out where you should best be spending your money to protect yourself with something like an endpoint detection and response or a SIM or, all different kinds of technologies, or even, how you should be training your employees. Are you seeing a certain type of phishing email all the time? If you are, maybe you should incorporate that in your training or make your employees very aware that, hey, we're seeing a lot of this, right? There's just so many cool analysis things you can do with an AI client or one of these large language models like ChatGPT to really analyze and figure out where you may have a vulnerability, how you can protect that vulnerability, and how you can use it to enhance your digital presence and your digital footprint.
Natalie, going off of what you were just talking about, training employees, and also because we've gotten questions from the larger community, because we want to make sure our community at large is also protected. One question that people wanted to know is just what's the safest way to download and share files online?
Okay, so that's going to depend. So I would recommend use a reputable service. Like most businesses have like a Google Workspace or Microsoft 365 or whatever, and that comes with tons of features that can help you download and share files in a safe manner. My best piece of advice was you should never click a link to download a file or go to a website or scan a QR code unless you know the sender or the giver and you're expecting it. And I know that's more difficult in some industries. So you may just have to take a couple extra minutes and call somebody at the phone number you know to be theirs, not the one in the email, right? And make sure that it really is them and all is good. And, I really should be getting this email or this document or whatever.
Yeah, and that is so important because I know even with us being a cybersecurity company, we get those emails all of the time, like, oh, click this link and things. So that is very important. And QR codes are that wave of the future, and people just, oh, it's so cool to do it.
Yeah.
You never know where it's going to land.
Right. You should just pay attention. Like if you're scanning a QR code, it will give you like a preview of what that website's going to be. So you really should pay attention. And you know what? The best piece of technology, because don't we all love the tech because we're a bunch of nerds here, right? The best piece of technology to protect you against those threats from clicking on a link mistakenly, because we all know better, but sometimes we get busy at work and we may be rushed and we may click on something we shouldn't click on. But that endpoint detection and response, that is so much better than antivirus because it understands how applications should work, right? So if I click on a bad link or I click on a bad document and it tries to launch a process on my machine, that piece of software should know, hey, Microsoft Word or a PDF document, that shouldn't be launching any processes. My web browser shouldn't be trying to launch a process. That's ridiculous. So it should stop it in its tracks. And even if it does a little damage on one machine, it also has the capability to let you roll that machine back to a previous good known state. And it also has the ability to take that machine out of the equation, to remove it from the network so it can still be managed and repaired, but it can affect other machines on the network.
Very good information to know. And Marty, I'm sure it's great information for the CEOs you're in conversations with. So what are some of the other questions you've been hearing from them?
Do you have any examples of small businesses that have effectively managed their digital footprint?
Yes, I do actually. So I think the the best example, you don't necessarily have to have a dedicated marketing person. I know we're talking to a lot of small and medium-sized businesses, but you should have somebody that has that type of talent, or you can even contract that type of talent, right? And they could help you create your vision statement, your mission statement, help you understand what your presence should look like online, help you with search engine optimization. So when someone Googles for whatever it is, whatever service or product you have, that you're coming up to the top of those search engine hits, right? And really, it really is a skill. So I really would encourage you to try to work with a professional who understands that whole marketing aspect.
Such an interesting point, discussing the role marketing plays in security and
Yeah,
cybersecurity. That's a really interesting thing that I don't think is often pointed out enough.
cool. Yeah, I mean, honestly, one of my favorite questions to ask when I'm presenting to people and it's interactive is whose job is security? You guys know, it's all of us, right? Right? I like to think that we're not the weakest link, but we're the best defense. We're that first line of defense, right?
Most definitely. And then Luke, did you have any other questions from the data science or IT directors you're in conversations with?
Sure. Working with the end users a lot, one of the questions we always see is what's the most common online threat that the end user is going to face, on a day-to-day basis?
You know, social media phishing, I think.
From the data science or IT directors you're in conversations with?
Sure. Working with the end users a lot, one of the questions we always see is what's the most common online threat that the end user is going to face, on a day-to-day basis?
You know, social media phishing, I think, because sometimes we get these ads that come up, right? And even when we get our ads on Facebook, right, that come up, and some of those are not super reputable, right? And it's not really possible for those providers of services like Google and Facebook and whoever to really filter all of that stuff out. We all know how difficult it is to filter out all of the junk that the bad guys send our way, right? But we shouldn't be clicking on every ad we see pop up. And I always tell everyone, if you do a search, and even if those first hits, because the first hits are usually ads or paid, I tell people just to be safe, skip those. Just totally skip those advertisements, right? Just go straight down to your search results. And it's just being careful and being judicious on what you click on. I would not respond to any of those Facebook quizzes because I can guarantee you that 99.9% or maybe 1,000% of those go directly to the dark web, right? You know, I mean, who really cares what your first boyfriend or girlfriend's name was, right? A bad guy trying to guess your password, right? Don't do that kind of stuff. Don't do, with the advent of AI and deep fakes, deep fake video and deep fake audio, don't use those fun little apps or games on Facebook that say, "Hey, what do you look like as a cat?" Or does everyone remember the cat attorney from COVID that came up the
Yeah.
other day? That was the best. But if you're giving away your face, right? Don't be surprised if it shows up in a deep fake somewhere. And this is not just a professional worry. This is a personal worry as well. And you really should, especially teenagers. Who on this call is thankful there was no Facebook when they were a teenager? Let me be the first to raise my
Me.
hand. Yeah, let me be the first, okay? Talk to your preteens and your teens about, not using AI for bad things to spread rumors or altered photos of their classmates. No online bullying, because that's something that can follow you the rest of your life and can get you in a lot of legal trouble. And we've seen a lot of that happening too. So that's another way to remain safe online.
And Natalie, you just kind of touched on it, but it also dovetails to a question that we did have, but I wanted to specifically ask two questions here. One
Sure.
is because what's really popular now on Facebook is people use their face to create like these puzzles and these lookalikes, and then also, well, how am I going to look in 100 years, or who am I related to as a celebrity? Just so we can put it out there. Is that safe for people to do?
Absolutely not. You're giving away your image to who knows. Because
And then
remember, if you're getting something for free, like access to Facebook or Google, or a free little fun face extorter, or morpher, right? You're the commodity. They're looking for something from you.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. And then the actual question also with that was, what steps should be taken to ensure privacy when using social media platforms? Which I know you've given some already,
Yeah.
no Facebook quizzes, don't use AI, no online bullying, but is there anything else that you wanted to add to answer that
Well,
question
you
in
can
more
use
detail?
AI. I just
Okay.
don't want you to give away your own image so
Okay.
people can't make a deep fake of you. AI
Okay.
is super cool. There's lots of great uses for AI. It's great for writing. So other things to stay safe, try to stay private. Don't share. And I think it's harder for business professionals, honestly, on LinkedIn than it is for people using Facebook for fun things personally, because you want to make sure that you don't always know the professional people you're connecting with on LinkedIn as well as your friends and family you're connecting with on Facebook, I feel, right? Don't share stuff like, hey, I'm going on this great vacation. Maybe wait till you get back to share those vacation photos so that you're not saying, hey, look at me. I'm gone. Come rob my house. Come rob my business. Nobody's there. You know, try not to give away. I always cringe when people post those pictures of their kids on the first day of school, with the name of their school and what grade they're in. You know, post the picture of your kid. Be proud of your kid. Okay. I don't have a problem with that, but it's a little dangerous to be posting stuff like where exactly your child goes to school and what grade they're in. Pay attention to your privacy settings, right? In LinkedIn, in your Facebook and whatever, Instagram, and don't use TikTok. Do not do it. Just don't.
Oh, wow, Natalie. I mean, great information here. I mean, just that segment alone, we might need to do a part 2 of this part 3 on just the social media aspect. So thank you.
What part does that make it?
And just to wrap up here, Marty, any last questions from the CEOs, captains of industry on your end?
No, I think we've pretty well covered everything that I've been hit with.
All
Awesome.
right. All right. Luke from the IT
Yeah,
directors and data scientists.
absolutely. One of the most commonly used technologies that we take for granted now is Wi-Fi. It is
Mhm.
part of everyday use, from our refrigerator to our phones to navigation. We just take it for granted. What is the
Mhm.
best way we can secure our Wi-Fi from potential
Oh,
hackers?
that is a great question. Change the default name. Don't
Hmm.
use the default SSID. That's what it's called. Change the password. Do not use the default password that came with your router, because guess what? Everybody knows that default password. And I mean everybody, right? Use encryption. Try to communicate over encrypted channels when you're on a website. Make sure it's HTTPS. Now, does that mean you're 100% safe? No, because bad guys can enable encryption as well, right? Turn off the SSID broadcasting so all your neighbors can't see. One of my favorite ones I've ever seen is hide your Wi-Fi, yeah, keep your router software up to date. Like if you're using like a mesh system like Eero or something, keep it up to date. It's pretty easy to keep those things up to date personally and professionally. Most of them have a setting that you can check a box and say automatically keep up to date. Make sure you have a good firewall, right? Use your VPNs to access networks. Like I'm traveling right now, so I'm using a VPN. I also use a VPN privately, not because I'm trying to hide anything I'm doing, but because I don't want bad guys or really anybody snooping on what kinds of communications I have going on. I have a little bit of a tinfoil hat thing going on over here.
Natalie, you just touched on a great subject, using the Eero or Google Nest or, some of these
Yeah,
new systems. I
yeah.
think that's so important to use versus using the free one that the ISP gives you.
Oh,
There has been
yes.
so many issues around that it is so important to use a quality Wi-Fi
Mhm.
system.
Yeah. And if you're a small to mid-sized business, use commercial stuff. Don't use stuff that's made for a home network, right? Because there'll be additional settings and additional security configuration. And guess what? You're going to need a professional like Heritage Digital to help you out with setting that up. But you should use business grade things for a business environment. I strongly believe in that.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you. Great question there from both of you guys. And just one more question, Nat, from the online community. So what are
Sure.
the signs that our device may have been compromised, or in what steps should we take if that happens? And I
So,
don't know if you want to answer that from, and if it's different for business versus community, if you could kind of address it if it is different.
sure. Some of it's the same, some of it could be different. If you notice that your devices or your network seems to be unusually slow, it could be the sign that some type of communication is going on that shouldn't be going on. For a business environment, I'd highly recommend you partner with a trusted professional like Heritage Digital, right? Same thing in your home network. If you notice weird slowdown of your machines or your network, you might be compromised. One of the signs of a business email compromise is like you may not be seeing your email coming in, because typically what a bad guy will do is they'll redirect messages to different folders and create and delete rules. And that's something that could actually be caught by a SIM, a security information and event management system, because the usually one of the first signs if someone doesn't realize they've clicked on something they shouldn't have is they won't be getting email because the email will be going somewhere else. Now, when they create and delete these Outlook rules, you'd have to be in the exact right place at the exact right time as a human being to notice that. But that's why some of these technologies would notice that for you and say, hey, we got a lot of rule things happening here. We got rules being created, rules being deleted. We got people logging in from, say, where am I right now? I'm in New Jersey. Say I log in from New Jersey, but somebody else logs in from the UK like 15 minutes later. A SIM could tell you, hey, that's impossible travel, right? So if you do think you've been compromised, whether personally or professionally, you should try to, if you're working from one particular machine, you shouldn't shut the machine down because you could destroy evidence, right? Digital evidence for forensics, especially in a business, but you should disconnect it from a network. We used to say pull the cable. Now I'd tell you turn off the Wi-Fi,
Yeah.
right? Is there anything else you think I missed there, Luke?
No, but you touched on some great points, especially with the Outlook rules. One
Yes.
of the out of the box settings we've recently implemented is disabling forward to external domains. So if
Mhm.
somebody does get in your email, the trick used to be they would send all your email right to Gmail. That is
Mhm.
one of the first things that we do when we secure anybody's email system.
Yep.
It's really important to have that in there. And another good topic you touched on is the locality of your logins.
Mhm.
By default, we also block all foreign logins on our business partners. So they do need to notify us before they travel outside the country and plan on checking their email, because it will raise a bell and it will get disabled as a
Excellent.
default action.
That's even better. Just disable it altogether. Don't wait for that SIM to alert off of it, right?
Yep. Yep. We always assume the worst and we'll,
Mhm.
hope for the best.
Exactly.
But if there's any question, we just disable the account and let's, verify it.
Yeah. Another good point too is if you do suspect something's going on with somebody's email address, the first step you should take is you need to know who to call. And you call that person and you say, hey, I need you to log this user out of every instance that they're logged into, right? So you want to do that first and then worry about changing passwords and doing some forensic investigation to figure out what happened where.
And that's part of our standard operating procedure.
Mhm.
Whenever we have anything, you go right into our, business email console and you hit that button that says log out of all sessions.
Mhm.
That is one of the first things that whenever in doubt, log everybody out.
Something I forgot to say, this kind of is related for those cookies. When you are surfing the web from either business or personal, I never allow those cookies.
Mm.
I only allow strictly necessary cookies. So
Yep.
that kind of limits people's ability to track you. So that's another good privacy tip, business and personal. That just reminded me.
Yep.
So great, great. And I'm glad to know that I've been doing it correct, which I'm sure Marty and Luke
Yay!
are also glad I've been doing it correct as well.
We all
Yes.
are. We're so
Yeah.
proud of you.
Well, that's the,
And that,
cybersecurity is everybody's business. It's no
yes,
longer the nerds in the
That's right.
back anymore. It's
Nope.
it's an organizational philosophy now.
It is. It's why it's so important to have a good culture of cybersecurity, right? Like I said earlier, sometimes we click on things not because we don't know any better, but because we're in a rush, we're multitasking. And the most important thing to know that if I click on something and I make a mistake, notice I'm picking on myself, none of you. If I click on something, I know who to go to and say, hey, I made a mistake. Let's make sure that nothing bad is going to happen out of this mistake. And that's so important to have that type of process in place in your business to say, and that ability that people aren't afraid to say, hey, I made a mistake, because you can really stop a lot of heartache for your business if you're able to nip it in the bud right at the beginning.
Yep. Good point.
And that's why I think simple tools like security awareness training are so
Yes.
important to
Oh,
businesses
yes.
to get everybody involved in the business from the top down and, aware of what cybersecurity is and just very simple facts of how to avoid it.
Oh, yeah, because you know what? Those bad guys, you know who they're targeting? Marty, they're targeting you, man.
Oh, absolutely.
They're targeting
Absolutely.
you. You're the CEO. They're targeting the financial people. They're targeting the HR people. They're targeting the marketing people. They're very rarely targeting us tech people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that one of the key points you made earlier was having a plan. You've
Mhm.
got to know who to call
Yes, you
and
do.
what your first steps need to be. But that incident response plan is an important piece of the puzzle. And we all kind of we've got this idea of what we're going to do, but I keep whenever I'm talking to people, I keep telling them that making your plan for evacuation of a building when it's on fire is not, that's not the time to do it. You need to already
No,
have that plan laid out, and because you're not going to think of everything that you need to think of. You're not going to do them in the sequence that you need to do them in.
you're
And
absolutely correct.
calling Luke with the problem, 2 hours later is probably not the best solution for me. I probably need to let him know early on.
Probably.
Yeah.
Marty, that's a great point. I think so often the incident response plan seems so intimidating and daunting, but you can start simply with who do you contact in IT?
Right.
Who
Yes.
that could be the first simplest and most effective step. Worry about, as you develop it, but just that first step, who do I contact?
Right. Who's the first one that's going to respond to me here so that I can try to close these doors down?
Exactly. Not just who to contact, but also that incident response plan is only as good as the last time you practiced it.
Absolutely.
And you need to
Absolutely.
include everybody in your organization because they will think of things from their perspective. And I bet you money everyone will have something great to contribute.
Yeah. Sure.
Sounds like you're talking
Absolutely.
about one of my favorite activities, tabletop drills.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and all of that will be available at our June event at Miller Mushroom,
Yes.
which is completely free. So for
Awesome.
everyone in this PD area, remember June the 18th, there's still time to register. We still have a few seats left, and always great food, great prizes. So you can still register and learn interactively how to run and also what you need to do in that incident. And so Natalie, who's been giving us great information every week, will be the one who will be leading it. We're going to have our CEO Marty there, as well as Luke Peluso. So please make sure you come and join us if you're in the PD area. And Natalie, we know you have a plane to get on in a few minutes. So I want to thank you so very much for joining us again today.
Yeah.
And for everyone who's out there in the social media land, we want to also remind you to come back next week. We're going to be live next week. So that's going to be next Tuesday. That will be our part 4 of wrapping up this securing your digital footprint. Natalie's going to give us more action steps because I was like, she technically gave us some action steps today, but we're going to get some more. We're going to have a nice jazzy handout for you so you can hit the ground running. And again, thank you to Marty. Thank you for Luke. Everybody have a wonderful week. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.